Chop Productions, in cooperation with Old Stony Brook Publishing, presents An Appointed Time by James Redfearn, read by Jordan Rich.
An Appointed Time, a novel by James G. Redfearn. Those who have crossed with direct eyes to death's other kingdom, remember us, if at all, not as lost, violent souls, but only as the hollow men, the stuffed men. From The Hollow Men by T.S. Eliot. Middleborough, Massachusetts. They long-stepped along the embankment, turtled up in sweaters and jackets against the perpetual dampness of the cattail marsh, still and frozen to the edges and capped in a thin veneer of gray ice. The adjacent swamp and woods garnished in a blanket of wet white snow, the skeleton trees of winter with their long bony limbs rocking back and forth in the chilled bitter wind like withered old men. Behind them the dust and stone of the power lines, static electricity bullwhipping the air. Charles Washington Harnett led the way, a .22 caliber long rifle slung across his back, with William Coyle toting another rifle and hiking stride for stride off Harnett's shoulder, and John Coyle limping badly 20 feet behind, every fourth step punctuated by the persistent thud of a walking stick. They circumvented the swamp and hibernating water snakes, the reedy marsh grasses wind-bent and sallow yellow, colonies of cattail stands asleep in their purgatory period. Upon the apron of solid ground, the men marched in silent revelation, past the desolate black forest, past the netherworld of the swamp and the entanglement of the underbrush, past the layers and layers of history and timeless decay. On and on they marched, racing the sun to the horizon and the remaining light of day. Chapter 1, Grafton, Massachusetts, Fall 1958. The bus rolled to a stop at the end of the long stone walk outside the building where a pole stood and the American flag blew away like a ribbon in the autumn breeze. On the bus, 5 young men in old uniforms, smelling like history, smoked and talked quietly or stared out the windows alone with their thoughts. The driver opened the door, and the 5 men came off the bus in single file. Duffel bags hung from their shoulders. They were dressed in high boots, breeches, and blouses that fit them well. They formed up one behind the other at the thick wooden door, and the first in line pounded his fist into it. They stood there at attention and waited for entry. The old brick building halfway up the hill on Route 140 in the town of Grafton had a colonial revival design, and it often was mistaken for being the residence of one of the town's leading citizens, or confused with the public library.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?